My name is Brian Nau. I'm a Milwaukee artist, born and raised. Had some excursions out west for a while. I had a gallery in California, which was really great. I go by BeingNau, which is my last name. It's kind of a play on that, being present, being now. The work I create is generally in the moment. I try to capture the essence of the experience. I've utilized those times to do self-introspection, I would believe. I think it's more of the line of like seeing what's unseen and allowing myself to process that. But Milwaukee's my hometown. I like to see it grow, and I love to see the arts in this community flourish. And I think the experience of being here and representing my hometown is a good experience. And people like Jenna coming down in this area and really making a difference in our community is a benefit.
You think I'm making a difference?
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks.
I think you're working on that. I think you definitely made an impact.
Thank you.
You know, I was told when I went to Laguna Beach to make a splash, you know? So definitely when you came into Milwaukee, I think you made a splash.
I'm trying.
I think it'll work out really well.
Well, I would love to hear how you've seen the art scene change over the years, because you grew up here, now you're working in it.
I've always been kind of a little bit of an outsider in the capacity of some people are living in the lifestyle of art, but yeah, art's been more of a blessing and a curse in the same regard for me. I've seen a lot of the artists that have come up in the Milwaukee area leave because the market itself isn't quite conducive to making a living, I believe, in art. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that find that, you know, they got to find their ventures somewhere else. And I mean, that could be true if you're in it for the money, but if you're in it just for the sake of creation and making art, I couldn't imagine a better city to be in. We've got a heart in the city that's just caring and compassionate. And generally, I think they refer to Milwaukee as Smallwaukee, because it is a tight-knit community. And I've been fortunate to work through some organizations in the city that have, you know, promoted the neighborhoods like Brady Street Bid, doing Art Walk, being on television a couple times, promoting the events that we're doing in the city. The Milwaukee Fringe Festival is a nice addition to our community of arts. I think the more people that are able to foster this in our community are being blessed lately to encourage, you know, retention of good artists. The Third Ward has been good to me, and this location down here is kind of the spot to be in, I suppose, if you're going to be, you know, representing Milwaukee as an artist. The lakefront is an amazing place in Milwaukee as well. So, I mean, art is inspired through water, and the power of the water is a blessing to have. But as far as the artists, I've seen artists come and go, and I think they just need to build their confidence to represent in the city and not feel that they need to approach another location. You know, because there's a lot of environment for arts to grow in this city. There's organizations that have stepped up and have been representing the city.
Well, one article said that we are the #4 art district in the U.S.
I like that, yeah. What was that, USA Today, I think?
I don't want to quote wrong.
No worries. But yeah, one of the publications in the spotlight of the national focus of community and art did give us a nod. You know, I think Milwaukee's on a precipice of growth, and I think it's a nationally known city, but I don't think it's been looked at as more of a flyover city for most people until they actually arrive and see what this place has to offer.
I love gathering nights.
It's so awesome.
When I moved to the area and learned that there are specific nights throughout the year where we can just walk into any art gallery who's participating, meet the artist, have some drinks, socialize, you know, check out all the different art. Moshi and I will go and do that, and we have a lot of fun.
And you'll find a lot of the Milwaukee artists are engaging people.
Oh, definitely.
And they have the opportunity to be there on the site. I always participate in gallery night and days. I don't hold hours in my gallery simply because, you know, I'm not in it to be a storekeep. I create the art in my living work unit here. I couldn't have asked for a better location to facilitate my needs as far as what I try to do and the opportunity that this environment provides.
So I've seen you do live art for other businesses, like at the Iron Horse Hotel, where our collaborative conversation was.
That was a great place.
And very creative, like projecting art onto a building, and you're into woodworking.
Yeah.
So when it came to Harmonic Harvest and having this collaborative conversations with different organizations that host inclusive, charitable, like social gatherings, I knew that I wanted there to be music and food and drinks and what else? Having art present, I feel gives it like a deeper connection, and it's something that we can take with us after that moment has passed.
Well, and that frequency, that vibration, it's, you know, it communicated to me when I was working on one piece, you know, the gallerist, she's like, those are our colors. You just, and I switched the palette. Yeah, seriously, I switched the palette. You need to
explain it a little bit. So he comes to the event and we're all talking and he's drawing on his iPad and it's being projected onto a screen. And as people are talking, his mind, you could see, I probably had one of the best views. So as everyone was talking, I'm just staring at his art like, this is crazy. And someone would say something and I would just see like the whole piece of art transform.
Yeah.
And then you would start over and then you would continue.
You know, I did about 20 drawings that night. In the span of about an hour, just from every person talking. And a couple of them got 2 drawings actually, because they were resonating at such a good frequency.
Right. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder what's going on in his mind when he's drawing this. And for you to say that Missy was talking, and then you chose her studio's colors.
Yeah, because her friend was like tapping on her, like, because I wasn't normally using that palette. I was trying to stick within the Harmonic Harvest vibe, the colors. But everybody all of a sudden, you know, the person talking about music and the recovery person and Big Brothers Big Sisters, and it just, everyone took a different shape, different tone. And I've enjoyed doing those types of works. I've done a lot of live work for Brady Street Fringe Festival a number of years. I was one of the performing artists and visual arts there. Downer, just generally it's a good vibe when you can capture a moment of people and share that with them.
Can you pull up a piece?
Sure.
So he's going to take aspects of these drawings that he created. And originally we thought, you know, maybe he could create it into something like this, because that's what he's very good at. We were sitting here talking about the event, and I thought, can you carve it into a piece of wood? And so we have this wood slab. It's actually the same piece of wood that's connected to my pub table in my kitchen. I'm currently renovating. So it's like a special piece of wood for me. It's silver maple or silver linings. And I just thought it would be something incredible to have as the beginning of our journey for Harmonic Harvest.
Yeah, that's a great way to go about it.
So let us see kind of what you were doing.
The software I use, it'll actually create a time lapse for us of the individual piece. So this is a time lapse of it creating.
And this is when Trevor was talking?
I believe it was, yeah.
So the very beginning.
And it just unfolds as it goes, and you can see every stroke is a new created point of line. It's just kind of a fun way of going about creating. So this piece, it was outside the realm of what I was looking, but I wanted the energy, the fire that was being spoken, the passion that was being created. I can play the time-lapse replay of that piece.
Can you explain to us what's happening?
It's hard to say, because generally what I get is a sense. You know, like you walk into a room, you get a vibe for something. You know, you might not quite define it, but you feel it, and you know what's right or what's not right. And so some of the works that I've created in these pieces, again, I did about 20 pieces in about an hour.
So how are you going to decide what goes onto this piece of wood?
What I'm doing is I'm just going to go back over these pieces, and yeah, this is the one that was for the other gallery with the pinks and the colors that she was using.
La Gente art.
It just sparked me. You know, like she has a fire to her, the passion that was there, kind of resonated with that.
So you're going to take aspects.
Yeah, I'm going to encapsulate some of the points. I don't want to like reproduce exactly what it was, but as I look at these pieces, there's a connectivity to those pieces, and I think it was all resonating from Harmonic Harvest and the energy you put forth to the room, because people were sharing what they were in direction to your points in your organization, what you're doing with this. So that's what I want to try to incorporate with this work, homogenization of all of those elements. And the piece of wood has a split that's kind of a natural split of the piece. So what I wanted to do is incorporate those elements in a form of unity to help like push that split back, or you know what I mean, help bridge that split and make that part of the piece. I mean, wood has its own language to it. It's, you know, it's not like some of the artists that we're talking about. Marble has its own sculpture in it, just waiting to be revealed. Wood has an element to it that's natural. The wood grain has a certain flow. My other wood carvings, I've actually utilized the wood grain to create the pupils of the eyes. Come on. Hi, buddy.
Well, one of my mantras with Harmonic Harvest is all flow, no force.
Right.
I don't want to force this process. It happens very organically. And I think that's what's going to be happening with this art piece.
For sure.
So sitting here today, we can't really say this is the outcome that it's going to be, because it's going to unfold over time. So as of right now, we know for sure Scathain is going to, they do a silver plating to wood. It's a really neat technique that they do.
I'm actually excited for that, because I think it's really interesting to have that utilized.
Yeah, and they do it with different colors. So it's a collaborative piece. So I'm really excited for that.
I am too. I've been constructing, I've not really quite laid the idea, but I've got an image of the piece of wood that I'm going to start kind of like tying in the sketches to get the vibe from all the other pieces. Because I can go into it and just capture whatever mode I'm in that time, but I want this to reflect that experience in those class, you know, those groups of people.
I can't wait.
So I moved into this space about 2 years ago from a Grafton studio in the Arts Mill, and I knew I needed some work areas other than display space. So I built these two sections here, you know, basically to utilize one area as like a office / storage / painting room. But I knew I was going to make a wood carving studio as well. So I framed it by 4 by 6, and insulated the walls behind that. And I incorporated a window for viewing, so I wouldn't have to keep that place open for people. And then so when I ended up doing that, I put some soundproofing on the back walls, put a dust handler and a chip separator, and basically just made this a workspace. So I separated it off with some plastic, and just, you know, out of necessity to keep the dust control and kind of work with what I'm working with.
So you got that piece of wood, and how far along did you get when you decided you were gonna put it on a chair so you could spin it?
I had it on like basically like a woodworking table, like a fold-up table with like brackets and clamps on it, and it was not easy to spin. And I was thinking, every time I work on this, I'm like stretching and trying to maneuver around the thing, and it just didn't work. So I had an old like desk chair. So I pulled the backrest off of that, and I use it as a lazy Susan. And so now it has wheels on the bottom. I can slide it around where I want. And you know, the cushioning actually serves as like a dampener, and it holds it in place so that I can rotate the pieces I need to work on it.
What's the longest you've carved at one time?
I would say about almost 10 hours. But continuously working, probably about 2-hour stretches at a time. First day I came back in and started working with that and using the hand tool, I set it down and my hand went, and I said, oh, tendons were a little tight. I had little stretches and stuff like that, so I took the next day off for that. But like anything, there's limitations in what you can do and what you can't do. I mean, you know when you hit the wall, you set your bar. It's daunting when you go to sit down and you go, damn, where am I going to start? Until you dig in, and then you're just saying, well, you know, I'm in the flow, and then it just starts unraveling to you, and you just start seeing it. And I see it in my eyes when I close them. I can kind of change the shape of it in my head. Kind of a fun way to go about it. And it's nice to see the evolution of the piece kind of unfolding. It's kind of like a lot of the artwork that I create. As it's happening, I may not have the full intention of willing it to something, you know, and then I start seeing what's being revealed to me, and then I say, yep, and then I give it the direction I'm seeing, and it needs the creation. You didn't want that bark, did you? This is a little piece. So the initial state of this carving, it kind of had a flow that I was representing the works in the conversation. Those pieces then were incorporated in the elements to this point. there's a fracture of the piece of wood that I wanted to illustrate the rift in some ways. And the works through what Jenna's doing, it seems like it's a healing or a mending. But in this illustrated area I'm pointing at, there's a figure reaching in, holding the hand of the figure, embracing the conception of the issues at hand or the elements of the world that we kind of want to mend back or bring some unity to, and some engagements and some connectivity with the general people. The building blocks of that, the different emotional states that are kind of tied to that. So you'll see different angles of faces being represented as they interact with each other and as they kind of influence or inspire other levels of that. So you'll see certain points where you'll see this context of a person, which is related to this, which feels down to this. And so they all kind of have like a symbiotic unity that flows with that piece. I just went back through and I used a little bit more of an aggressive tool that cuts deeper, but it's a little tighter to control. So keeping that in place, working into the angles in this, you don't want to start accidentally hitting other elements. So then I reverted back down once I defined the depth, because this takes forever if you try to cut deep with this. And then this comes in and basically abrades down and allows me to shape. There's the two halves that are still kind of in an incomplete state because I wanted to get the context of the center established. The two elements flow around. Jenna's portion on this side over here was kind of nicely placed because it kind of impacts the state where the healing is going to be in this portion. Not how it's so much healing, because it's, what do you think? Not necessarily. Is it? Yeah, because it does bring people, it mends certain things. Right, that's kind of what I think about when people get together. So that's going to be part of the silver linings aspect flowing up here. The identification, the nurture, the grasping, the healing, and it all kind of becomes cyclical.
So I'd like to hear a little bit more about the thought process that goes into your work. You talked about it a little bit, but in the moment, what's going on?
Precognitively, I never really approach a piece thinking what I want to make. It goes beyond some people just create line and create doodle until it looks like something. What I found is there's a creation to the moment that inspires the next line that then reflects back into a certain meaning or an expression or an interaction with somebody, and that interaction then stimulates an emotion or a perception, and as that perception unfolds, it allows itself to then become an image that can be looked at as a dynamic of interconnectivity. People's experiences, just even a facial expression really communicates a lot. So I try to capture in those works that dynamic. I also use a little bit of an encryption, I think, to my artwork for the fact that I know what is personally meaning to me, but I also allow the viewer to take their own ownership of the piece and find their dynamic of what they see. I mean, I've been told a lot of people have seen certain things that I would have never assumed, and then once those assumptions are like that, and I say, wow, this person really can look into the piece and feel the piece and experience what I'm trying to convey. I've had collectors tell me that they've never really looked into the abstract for their style of what they like to collect, but they have felt something in the piece. And I think as long as the art reflects that emotion, that feeling, and it conveys that expression, and people resonate with it in a genuine way.
I feel that even with the colors that you choose, or maybe there's thicker lines, there's a lot of different ways that you express yourself with that same interconnectivity.
It's a balance. And some lines have a heavier flow because I want the focus to kind of direct the narrative, so to speak. I often refer to the work as a visual narrative of interconnectivity, and so within that, like writing a sentence, you accentuate your words to make the points. And in anything with composition, your eye wants to follow a certain path, and that path then illuminates the story of the piece. And some of the work actually helps facilitate the boundaries within those realms that I'm experiencing with. It helps define the magnitude of the impact of that piece. If I were to be a writer, I think I'd speak more eloquently of the work in more poetic terms. But seeing as I think visually, everything in my mind is processed through a visual experience of things. As I experience the world around me, realizing that things are based on your perception can be changed Therefore, then changing the reality of that moment, you're able to shape that creativity, shape that moment, and see what you choose, because then that became your reality. And so with the abstract forms that I create, it shapes a reality that can be interpreted in a lot of ways. You know, a lot of people told me they can work at my work and see so many different things any given day, depending on what mood they're in. And I think that's a good point to illustrate with that interconnectivity, that interchange of thought, emotion, experience, reflection, and how it influences the next phase or the next point of somebody's vision. You know, I don't try to live an artist lifestyle. Honestly, I think it's more of it's a facilitated necessity to create through my experiences as a child, and, you know, having to kind of find my reality in a world that I had control in because it was so out of control. You find a safe place. And so I turned to art for that reason. And then I started realizing what that impact can mean to my ability to process the environment around me. And, you know, it illustrates different dynamics of need to change, or you stub your toe so many times, you look at the curb. Why am I stubbing my toe? Mentally, the same capacity could be when you're creating an art, you all of a sudden see that dynamic play out in front of you, and you say, oh, yep, that's exactly why I've stubbed my toe.
Sounds pretty poetic to me.
I appreciate it.
Really well said.
Thank you. It is a nice time to be able to communicate the works too. You know, I try not to over-intellectualize, because so many things in emotion can be dismissed through an intellectualization of that. But then you don't feel it. It takes the heart out of it, just keeps your head into the whole situation.
You know, there's a lot that you say that resonates with me. You talk about perspective. I have that tattooed on my arm. And since I got that tattooed, I have a completely different perspective on the world than I do today.
Of course.
There's so many moments where I look back at my life and I just see how I've grown or how I've learned. And I genuinely just try to look into the smallest signs and synchronicities throughout my day. And that kind of goes into how we met each other.
Yeah.
So my sister, she kind of leans, I have two sisters, and at the time, one of them was told, you know, when you speak, it's leaning a little negative, and you could be negatively manifesting for yourself. You really need to be careful how you speak.
Exactly.
And she called me and said the next morning, I want to sell my art for a living. I'm going to get back into my hobby, my passion, because really life is about living. There are a lot of hardships. I'm not saying that we shouldn't focus on them and that we can't have constructive conversations or talk about the difficult things that we're going through. But if you look for the silver linings, there's always something good in something. You might not know it at the time, but some of my worst experiences ended up being some of my brightest, most meaningful moments in my life.
The hardest impacts are what forged the swords to become stronger. You know, I think the people who have been through the darkness have found light, and they've manifested that light in a point of their own, I want to say, survival in some ways. And when all is lost, you have that one chance to see the little thing.
Right.
You know, and everything is in the detail, I think. And, you know, when it comes to how you want to see something, the filter you put on your mind or your vision of that situation can connotate a negative or a positive. You know, optimistically speaking, you know, there's always a benefit from even the worst flaw. You know, I don't want to be cliche, but, you know, the adage that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is true to a point. It's true to the point of the fact that if you monitor how you want to see that and you make it the positive. Sure, we all suffer. Life has suffering. Whether you dwell in it or not, there's always something to be taken positively from it. I think we both had our share of some pretty extreme hardships. And if we can make that light from our own hardships, then we can be the beacon or the lighthouse or the candle holder to somebody else's point of darkness when they don't know their way. Be the light, show it,
Yeah.
And
Someone just said to me the other day, his name is Eric, he works with Scathain, which is the company that's going to be collaborating on this wood piece with us. But he said, how much darkness does it take to overpower light? How much light does it take to light up darkness? And really could just take one match, one flame, and it totally illuminates.
light a candle in a dark room, you're going to see a lot. Granted, there's some shadows that are cast, and if we want to look at those shadows as the boogeyman on the chair, or bring the light to that situation and see that it's just the coat sitting on the chair, you know? We have a chance to look at it. The more light we shed on something, the more able we are to really get the fidelity of that moment. You know, perception is a MF if looked at incorrectly.
Right.
I full-heartedly believe in the serendipity. If you're on your path, what ends up coming to your path is the road. It might be a gravel road at first, but then it becomes a street, and then that street turns into a highway. That highway brings you to the gas station. It motivates you and fuels you to go further. A lot of us they get stuck in the brush. You know, they're weed whacking somebody else's trail. They don't quite know where they're going. But once you find your path, keep on it. You will get to that road. You will get to that freeway. You'll find yourself in destinations that you could have only imagined. But it takes commitment, you know. And I think at that time I was walking a lot of miles a day. I think when I met you, I just got off of a 10-mile walk. And you know, once I started to engage in those activities that were bringing about, you know, the time, the health, the contemplation. When you're walking is something. It's just puts you in what some people refer to as the flow. It allows you to open up your mind to ways that you wouldn't have otherwise experienced. But it takes that trip, it takes that journey to follow yourself. And then you find, you know, you might find that quick trip on the road.
Yeah.
You know?
Whenever a cloud appears in the blue, remember somewhere.
So Brian, as everybody knows, he drew during the collaborative conversation. We took 12 of those drawings, put it on a canvas bag, gave it its unique colorway logo. There's only 12 canvas bags and 12 of each kind. So 144 total. If you go on harmonicharvest.org, all proceeds go back into Harmonic Harvest because it is a nonprofit. And there are these hats. There's the colorway of the original Harmonic Harvest logo and Silver Linings logo. And there's a t-shirt that has the raw, untouched piece of wood that Brian carved into, inspired by these drawings from the collaborative conversation. And today we're going to see John with Scathain silver plate this piece of wood that's carved. And there's going to be another t-shirt with that final piece of art to represent the beginning and the end of season 1. Today we're here with John McWilliam, the owner of Scathain. He started this business. He's going to give us a tour and explain how he is helping with weaving silver linings.
Yes, amazing nonprofit company, amazing. And I'm honored to be even a small part of it. But Scathain is a Gaelic word for mirror, because one of our niches is that we make mirrors. And it's funny that what we're contributing to this beautiful piece of art is silver plating some wood, a sculpture, carving. And we use our mirror making process to do the silver plating. So you later on will be able to witness this, and very excited. So
Yay, me too.
Yeah.
So as I've already talked about, you've met Brian. He carved into a piece of wood that I got from Scathain, and it was all inspired from what he drew from the collaborative conversation, and John's going to finish it off. So John, what did you do before Scathain?
Well, my heart and life passion was being a musician. And in order to be a musician, I had a trade of being a painter, and that turned into high-end painting for some reason, I don't know why. But during the Great Recession, it kind of closed that business down, and I was forced to rediscover myself, and voila, Scathain manifested.
I love it. It's a really organic, high-spirited place. There's some like experimental things.
Lots of
very
experimental.
high end. They do. They have their own furniture line. They'll do custom work. I actually met John because he's helping me with my renovations at my condo, and I knew it was meant to be because he did the work for the previous owner that lived where I live. So next thing you know, here we are. Do you want to give us a tour?
Sure. Yeah. What a quirk of fate, too. The fact that we had that crossover. What a amazing, another miracle that happened. Miracles are all around, aren't they?
I completely agree.
So Scathain, not only do we do mirrors, but we also make stuff. We make like this mirror frame right here, this unique glass. The metal frame was forged here. This is an interesting sample of silver-plated wood, which is a sample of a tabletop that we did for the Iron Horse Hotel. And you can see the unique wood grain that's silvered, how the effects that silver has on wood are just really miraculous. So yes, Jenna was right. We do lots of experimenting here, and we invent finishes and products. Here's another piece of glass that's been silvered that has some peacocks etched into the silver. And it's more than a mirror, it's art, it's a piece of art. Another thing we do here is create custom textured glass. This is slumped glass, it's been slumped over chicken wire. And then we take the chicken wire off and you're left with this clear glass that has the chicken wire pattern. So this is something that we're experimenting with quite heavily right now with all different types of textures. So glass, mirrors, conference tables, artwork. So yeah, let's step into the next room and see what other things we can find.
Shining. And so the right thing to do is make it shine for you. A heart full of joy and gladness will always banish sadness and strife.
So this piece has been prepped and it's ready for silver plating. And this is the clear base coat that gives us sort of a glass surface to silver upon.
This is amazing.
So yeah, no, don't touch. It's okay. Just in time. Yeah, because the fingerprints will show up in the silvering. That's how the silver is on a molecular level, and it broadcasts any subtle texture, including a fingerprint.
In that case.
Yeah. So put your nose on there.
This is all kind of derived from the collaborative conversation, the works and the individual conversations that people were having. I generally took the consensus of that energy, that collaborative, that energy that they shared, and combined it into the effect of the building of all the different faces that are interconnecting and ideas and emotions that are getting put into this situation. Breathing life into something and then fostering that and then extending it to mend the cracks and help bring together some of the divisions, some of the problems, some of the things we're all facing in society that these organizations and foundations all help mend. So as you see, there's different points that one point will be a counterpoint to the next. It might be the observation or the vision of the one with the emotional reaction to the other as it folds out. And it's kind of an interesting, it's circular piece because there is a circle. It's the path of everybody is in a kind of a circle, you know. And as we interact, we find new ways of looking at things or gaining deeper insights and depth into that perception of the person or an understanding or even just vibe. And once you resonate in that vibe, you can continue that and build off of that. So it's kind of the gist of where I was going with this piece. Jenna contributed to one portion of this, and it's the far right side of there. And it helps stem the direction of the coming together or the organization of the challenges that are faced. So it's the catalyst almost, if you will, to inspire that fostering the change, to bring the mending to that harmony, to bring that collection together. And so it's kind of symbiotic to the left, right sides of the brain in existence and harmony and yin yang and anything in dualities. But generally that was it. And a lot of it just kind of lent itself to how I felt while I was creating the portion or how that conversation made me feel just individually. And what I took from that personally, I kind of try to reflect back into the piece. So as it all unfolded, yeah.
How did it feel carving into this?
It was good. Initially, I went shallower, and I said, no, this needs to be a deeper project. This needs to go like farther. It's got to have that sustenance to it that this organization's bringing to our society and to people in person. Just you had to feel it. So seeing it in this state, I think it's an amazing opportunity to collaborate and work with this organization. Scathain's great, John's great. The energy in this place, you could feel the love and what we're doing and what people are having and sharing, and it fits. It all lines up. So.
What we have here is a maple slab.
Silver
and,
maple.
Silver maple, yes. Silver maple being silvered. And
for weaving silver linings.
it's for weaving silver linings, of course. And that was a wonderful description of the composition from Brian. Really makes a lot of sense to me, which will all be immortalized by this silver plating. So we're going to see this transformed by the silver, and you'll be able to see the dynamics of the composition really pop out with the different colors that are going to take place. So what we've done to this point is we applied a wood sealer. Brian gave us the finished carved piece, which was bare wood, and we applied a solvent-based sealer, and then that raised the wood grain, so that caused us to do a lot of fine tuning and the sanding smooth the raised wood grain, sanding that smooth. And then after that, it's dusted and vacuumed. We apply another 2 base coats of a high gloss acrylic urethane, which for me, it responds like a glass finish, like we're silvering glass right now. So we left some areas sort of dry and fuzzy, and those will break up the silver plating a little for it to be a little less reflective and be more of like a crumpled up tin foil. So wherever you see a dry spot, that will be a different color than the smooth, glossy parts. So that's one way we create dynamics here.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be something that we've never anticipated or seen before once it's done. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to spray it with a chemical called stannous chloride diluted in distilled water, and that adds what they call a tinning the surface, which is basically adding a -1 electric charge, almost like a static cling to the surface. So that gets completely rinsed off with distilled water, but the static cling remains, and almost like Velcro. And that Velcro then grabs the silver that I spray on here. The next step after the tinning process will be to spray silver nitrate onto the surface. That -1 grabs the positive ion of the silver and makes silver appear out of nowhere. So it'll go from this water-like clarity to all of a sudden silver's appearing. So it's like, just keep making the silver. Let's fill this place up with silver.
So cool.
And it is the element silver, which is we're robbing from the silver nitrate. So we'll see that reaction here next. So
And this is how you make a mirror usually?
that's how we make a mirror too, yes.
Wow.
And it can be sprayed on or even poured on. And pouring on is even a little more exciting because there's more nuances with the gravity and all that. But
So a mirror can be liquid. This is all liquid, and then it hardens.
It's liquid, and it's the element of silver is left behind on the glass. So you rinse it off, and it's literally like you bought a bar of silver from the silver bank and just mashed it onto the glass.
So cool.
So,
all right.
yeah, it's pretty spectacular alchemy that's taking place here.
I love the chemistry behind it. It is always weird to me when I think about how windows are really like liquid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they're moving constantly like it's silica sand.
Yeah.
That glass is fascinating stuff.
Okay, so what are you gonna do next?
This is pure silver that you see here right now. It's fully conductive. In other words, we could copper plate this now because it's conductive. So it's a conductive wood, which is one of the greatest mysteries of this. Because typically plating, you need it to be conductive to plate. But now that this has the silver on it, we can copper and even nickel plate this to take it further. But we're going to leave it silver plated. So to cut some of the reflectivity, we're going to treat it with an acrylic urethane that has what they call a 55 sheen. So it's halfway between full gloss and satin. It's like a semi-gloss, and it will cut some of the reflectivity and allow some of the composition to be a little more prevalent, because the level of reflectivity that's happening here right now is really absorbing a lot of the composition because you're seeing so much sparkle. So to push that back a little bit, the composition will come forward a little bit. But it'll still have its mysterious reflective glow once it's coated. So that's the balance, is getting that just the right sheen level so that you really can't tell what it is, but it's amazing.
You know what's great is I want to do this every season of weaving silver linings.
Let's do it, yeah, for
and
sure.
we can really have fun with, like, maybe it's a purple heartwood in the beginning and it's a beautiful before, untouched, and then you could take it, you know, to, you know, what you were just saying about
Different levels of well, we can add different hues too. Like we could do a rose tone silver, or we could do a golden harvest type straw type tone, or
right.
black silver, black gold, green, whatever color we want in a metallic.
And Brian understanding now too, because this has been such a learning experience for everybody. Like, imagine one that has more of this smooth,
Yeah.
like larger
Planes.
pieces of planes.
Yeah,
And
because you can
then-
see your fingers reflecting in it.
right. And then
Hold-
here, there's, you know, so many dips.
Yeah.
I see so many of the faces now, way more.
Yeah, it's a very unique.
And I see what you're talking about with the smooth and then the rough.
Yeah,
the
like
rough
this
spots.
little. Yeah, the smooth spots are more reflective,
You see how here it looks a little.
and here these little rough spots here.
Yeah.
That's like the crumpled tin foil.
It's really cool seeing the bark on the sides.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it was a little challenging to get that to react because there's so much topography there for the chemicals to reside. And I like the fact that there's a little wood showing through here and there.
Me too.
It keeps it real, you know.
Right. And like I said, every season we can keep having fun with it. So, I mean, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about getting little wood silver plated keychains for HH
Yeah.
and whatever else we want to do, really. So we'll come back and we'll see what you end up doing to it.
Yes. Yep. Tomorrow
Thanks for
morning.
teaching us about it too.
Yeah, my pleasure. Let's do it again.
Ah,